and welcome to Money, Sense, and Freedom. I am your host, Alex Karitis. And before we begin today, since this is my first program, I would like to take the time to introduce myself so you know who you're listening to. Well, my name is Alex Karitis. I am from the Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania area. Educational background is in finance and economics. Undergraduate degree was earned from Robert Morris University, and I then went on to earn my master's in applied economics from Johns Hopkins University. Following school, I worked in several different fields, consulting, energy, and I'm currently with a family business in construction management. The purpose for the show is multifaceted. Money, Sense, and Freedom is going to be about just those things. Money from the standpoint of financial and economic news, sense trying to bring sense to the worlds of finance, economics, policy, and how everything gets tied together. And then freedom, just the philosophy of freedom, of something that I'm very passionate about. And the catalyst for the show is really my book, which I co-authored, which is The Cynic's Guide to Investing. In the era of too big to fail, it pays to be a cynic. Check it out, Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com. A great read, if I do say so myself. And it will really help you get a grasp of various aspects of the economy, how it functions, why it operates the way that it does, and to grab all of those different facets and then put it into a game plan for you to take action to invest and to take control of your financial future. The book was written with passion for a passion, and that shows through, I think, through the book's entirety. And it is sort of a tour de force, if you will. It's a textbook-esque style, but I think if you do take the time to read it, you'll enjoy it. And it will take a little bit of study. There will be some things that you may have to reread, but that's okay because you're learning, and that's what we want. The goal for us, and when I say us, I also mean my co-author, Brad Garone, who is a great friend and also a former colleague. We just hit it off and had the idea to write the book. And so we hit the ground running, and The Cynic's Guide to Investing is the product, and we hope to have more for you in the future. But please do check that out. We'd love to hear your feedback. It always inspires us. We love hearing that feedback. We love constructive criticism. It only makes the work better. So with that, while I hope this show can run for many months in the future and hopefully years, I do want to take this time for the first few episodes to sort of explain the book, give it detail by detail, a little bit chapter by chapter, a high-level overview. I don't want to give away too much. I do want you to buy it, obviously. But even if you can take a handful of the talking points away, I'll consider that a success because it's better to have a little bit of knowledge on these things than nothing at all. So with that, let's get started. So the book is broken down into 4 different but separate parts, but obviously they're very well connected, and that's by design. But we wanted to kick off the book with definitions, and we did that because we want to make sure that everybody's on the same page. You guys aren't familiar with Brad or myself, and that's fine. We're not experts on the news every day. We are not top-selling authors, at least not yet. So you don't know us. So that's why we took the time at the very beginning of the book to explain who we are, our rationale, why we wrote the book, and then again those definitions so everybody's on the same page. Because unfortunately, it seems like in this day and age, we have too many people who associate certain words with different words, which they're really not synonymous with each other. And when I go through these definitions, I hope I'm able to explain that to you and what I mean by that. So let's get started with that. So the first one is freedom. Very simple definition, you would think, but I think this gets tossed up incorrectly in a lot of ways because it becomes overly complex, and it doesn't need to be because it isn't. It's very simple, and that's sort of the beauty of freedom, is its simplicity. And that's one of the many reasons why I love freedom. But freedom is really just the lack of force, the lack of coercion. You can do what you want. You can do what you please. You have the liberty to be who you are, to express yourself, to pursue your goals, your dreams, your passions, virtually unfettered. And that really means, in the context of history, is a lack of government involvement. And so that sort of set the groundwork for the founding of this country. So That's freedom. Like I said, real simple. Doesn't need to be overly complex because it isn't. Next, we have markets. Again, another simple definition. Markets are just people. It's just us. That's all there is. It's just people. You have people coming together to trade goods and services at an agreed upon price. That's a market. You have people who come, you have entrepreneurs who come to the market to provide those goods and services because they think they can do it better than a competitor, or they think they have a new product that the market would absolutely love. That's markets. Very simple. Put those two words together and you get free market economics. Free market economics is not some greedy capitalist sitting in some high rise looking down on people saying, how can I screw you today? How can I get another penny out of these people? That's not what it's about. And unfortunately, it seems all too often that's the image that's thrown out there about free market economics, capitalists, and the like. And that's something that we really highlight in the book. It's just not the case. And that's what this program is going to be about. And you're going to hear me talk about this much, much more. I'll go on my rants. You'll get used to this. But I think at the end of the day, you're going to come down on my side because all I'm doing is using the actual definition of the words. You may not like the system. That's fine. That's your opinion. But make sure you understand what system it actually is, not the system that people on TV are trying to tell you is what it is. All you got to do is stop and think for yourselves. Next, we have capitalism. Look at the root word capital. Well, what is capital? That's a good question. I don't think a lot of people understand what capital is. Capital isn't just money, because money can come in to existence in many different ways. Unfortunately, we have a system in this country and around the world where so much of the money that comes into circulation comes in the form of debt and credit. In other words, it's printed into creation. The way that capital works is rather different, because the way that capital will come into existence is by you trading your time and labor for a wage. Those wages are capital. And if you want to take that a step further, what you spend just to live, rent, food, clothing, all that good stuff, what you then save afterwards, that's really the true capital at the end of the day. And what you do with that is completely up to you. Capitalism is not synonymous with materialism. Materialism is a completely different animal. There are many people who are materialistic, and that's fine if that's your cup of tea. Go out, have a blast. But there are also a lot of people who are not materialistic. So can you call one person a better capitalist, or they're more capitalistic in some sense because they want things more than somebody else? I don't think so. So capitalism gets thrown out quite a bit rather loosely, and it's a shame because it is a good system. But what you have to focus on even further is it's the free market capitalism, because capital can exist under any type of regime. It can exist under fascism, corporatism, socialism, communism, whatever other political word you want to throw out there. Capital exists. The type of capital that you want to focus on, the type of system that you want to focus on, is really free markets, free market capitalism. How is that capital being utilized? You want it to be utilized freely because it's your money. You don't want to have a middleman. You don't want to have the government coming in and intervening and saying, here's how you have to spend your money, here's why you have to do it, yada, 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 and down the line you go. It doesn't work. If you want somebody to tell you what to do with your money, then go find somebody, pay them a salary, and you can say, here's what I want. I want you to tell me what to do, when to do it. Keep everybody else out of it, because I don't want to be told what to do. I don't want to tell you what to do. I want you to enjoy your life. I want to enjoy mine. And round we should go. It's a very libertarian mindset, I guess you could say. I don't like to be grouped in. I like to value the individual. But if you were to put me in a box, I guess you could say, a libertarian, a conservative libertarian is what I would fall into. But if you have questions for me, ask me. and I will gladly answer them, because I don't like to put anybody in a box. I know it's difficult to get down to every single detail, and it's easier to speak in generalities, of course, but I think it's important to understand where people are coming from, and the best way to do that is just to have a civil, open dialogue, and that's what this program is going to be about as well. So getting back to capitalism, again, focus more on the free market capitalism. How is that capitalism? How is that capital utilized? Is it freely, or is it by some sort of force or coercion, or is there great interference due to government intervention? So when people say that the United States of America is a free market capitalistic system, what we show in the book, what this program is going to be about is, unfortunately, this country is not a free market capitalistic system. If you think about how much government involvement there is at the federal, state, local levels, if you look at the amount of money printing that our central bank, the Federal Reserve, does, that's not capital. That's debt. That's credit. That's legal counterfeiting, which is not a good system. You want to talk about income inequality? Start there. You want to talk about wages not rising for lower and middle income families? Start there. You want to see why the government can get away with the things that it gets away with, why we have $20 trillion in debt and growing? Start there. If you don't understand the Federal Reserve, if you don't understand monetary policy, you don't carry too much weight with me. Not to say that you're not going to have information and a lot of knowledge and experience in other facets of government and policy, finance and economics, but the power that the Federal Reserve wields is just astronomical. And once you get a grasp of that, you're going to see how it affects almost everything. And if you can attack the root as opposed to the many branches that it creates, then you'll really solve the problem. Otherwise, it's just going to be like a dog chasing his tail. If he catches it, what's he going to do with it? It just makes really no sense. Too big to fail. Our book is titled The Cynic's Guide to Investing in the Era of Too Big to Fail. It pays to be a cynic. And we make that argument, and we prove that argument throughout the book. So too big to fail is a rather subjective statement, I guess you could say, because it's really at the discretion of the regulators and our government and the bureaucrats that manage those various departments. But too big to fail was really a catchphrase that sort of came out after the aftermath of the 2008-2009 financial crisis, where too big to fail is, it's a rather blunt statement. It means what it kind of means. If an institution is deemed too big to fail, meaning that if it should fail, the systemic effects of how it's going to ripple through the economy and how that's going to affect so many other stages down the trough means it's so catastrophic that we can't do it. Hide the children, if you will. We just can't let them go. That's nonsense. If we had people with brains and, quite frankly, the balls to tell the American people what was going on, these big banks would have been out of business, because free market capitalism would have saved the day. It would have put these people out of business, or it definitely would have downsized them, because what has happened with these too big to fail institutions over the past decade, almost, since that crisis, is they've gotten bigger in every way. Market share, revenues, profits, deposits, wealth management clients. You just look at everything. They've gotten bigger and bigger. So what happens, not if, but when the next crisis happens? How are they going to be saved? Because as we outline in the book, and as I'll explain to you as we get further through this program, it's amazing how much money has been put into the system to save these guys. And unfortunately, I don't think a lot of people realize how much money that is, and the negative effects that have transpired as a result. Some political words: fascism, corporatism, socialism, communism. Choose the word that you like. It really doesn't matter to us, but do understand what they mean. Fascism, corporatism, basically the same thing. Mussolini said that fascism is better termed corporatism because it really is the merger of the big state with big business. And as Brad and I show throughout the book, that's pretty much how we define the United States of America, unfortunately. A lot of people like to throw out the word socialism and communism. There does seem to be some sort of competing forces between socialism and fascism in this country, unfortunately. But understand that they're two rails to the same track, leading in the same direction, with the destination being disaster, really. In world history shows you that and proves that time and time again. So why people seem to flock to these ideas of socialism and fascism and communism are really beyond me, because they've never worked anywhere. A lot of times you'll see people who try to maybe sort of come to the middle. They may claim to be a free market capitalist, but then somebody will say, well, I can agree with the idea of socialism and these other things. And I'm like, that's not even a good idea. It's not even a good idea. Don't even give them that, because it's not a good idea. It's not a good idea. It never works. It doesn't work. It won't work. And it doesn't work for one very simple reason. It lacks freedom. Think about that. If you have people controlling you and telling you what to do, you may agree with some of those things, but then there's going to come a day where you're told something to do and you completely disagree with it. And it doesn't take that long for that moment to be realized. And anywhere you see socialism or communism or fascism take root, it does eventually fail. Free market economics, free market capitalism, by its very design, allows for failure to happen, but the failure is a good part of the system, because it's ridding itself of the waste. And that's what you want. You don't want waste being built up. You don't want waste being built up in your body. You don't want to have an illness get bigger and bigger. You want it flushed out of your system. Sure, there might be some pain as a result of that, but guess what? At the end of the day, you're better off. And the same thing holds true with the economy. And you have to keep that in the back of your mind. There is no silver bullet. There is no magic wand. So at the end of the day, things are always going to fail, because there's only people, and we fail. We mess up. We make mistakes. But at the end of the day, do you want to have freedom, or do you want to have somebody controlling various aspects of your day-to-day life? And that's where I come down. Free market capitalism isn't perfect. Nothing is. But if and when it fails and certain things fail, you at least have freedom. And the markets will be better off as a result of it, because if you look at it not as failure but as learning, then you're only going to get better from there. So keep that in mind. Fascism is corporatism, the same thing. And fascism, socialism, communism, same rails to the same track. Okay? Socialism gets thrown around loosely as well. Socialism is control of production by the state. Communism goes a step further in its control of production and consumption, meaning it's going to tell its citizens, here's what you're going to produce, here's how much you're going to produce, here's how much you can consume. End of story. And then lastly, we have cynicism. Unfortunately, this is another word that gets thrown around that typically has pessimistic, negative connotations with it. And that's something that we sort of fought against in the book. It wasn't a main point of the book, but obviously the book is titled The Cynic's Guide to Investing. So we do need to talk about cynicism. And the definition is rather simple. It really has to do with self-interest and people being motivated by self-interest. That's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. If you want to go and get educated, that's a good thing for you and for a whole host of other people, because you're going to be better at your job. You're going to produce more. You can help other people in various ways. That's all good stuff. You can help take care of your family as opposed to, having to rely on others. That's all good. You want to work out and exercise and get healthy. That's selfish, but that's good. So too many times I think we look at selfishness as a negative, when really it's a positive. If you don't take care of yourself, who is? So if you can become the best version of you, then maybe you can inspire others to be the best versions of them, as opposed to everybody looking at everybody and thinking what somebody else thinks of them. Be who you are, embrace that, and become the best version of you. Now, the sort of funny thing about choosing the word cynic for our book um, was there actually happens to be an ancient Greek philosophy based off of cynicism, but it has nothing to do with those negative connotations. In fact, it's rather uplifting and inspiring. And through these videos, um, my outro to Money, Sense, and Freedom actually shows a handful of words at the end, things to look forward to have a better life. I'm going to have many other episodes that are going to build on that, so look for that in the future. But that's where those words come from, so it's not just random. So when you see that at the end of the show, that's where that's coming from. It's coming from that ancient philosophy, and something that Brad and I have kind of worked on, and I'm going to take some more time and really focus on it, and then put something together for you, and hopefully make that a work in progress as we move ahead. So with that in mind, let me give you the layout of the book. So as I said previously, the book has 4 separate yet highly interconnected sections. Part 1 is Follow the Money. In this part, we follow fiscal and monetary policy. So fiscal policy focusing really on the federal government, and monetary policy, again, the Federal Reserve policies, how that affects us on an individual level, how it affects businesses, and those consequences, good or bad. We also focus on the mutual fund industry. After all, the book is ultimately about investing, so we do want to focus on the mutual fund industry and show you where funds are flowing, why they're going there, does it look like that's a sustained pattern, why not, and we'll get into that as well. We then move on to part 2 and talk about trends and demographics. In this part, we focus on a handful of things: obesity, healthcare, drugs, mainly prescription drugs, but we do touch a little bit on illegal drug usage as well, and then the aging population. And all of these things can come together to highlight problems, but also how those problems can be investment opportunities in disguise. And if you know where and how to look, then you can really make yourself some money. This book, and I want to stress this book is not a get-rich-quick scheme. That's not who Brad and I are. And if you had a conversation with us for 5-10 minutes, you would know right off the bat, these guys are not get-rich-quick scheme type guys. This is a wealth building model. It's going to take time. It's going to take study. And that's okay, because that's going to make you a better investor. And that's what we want. So keep that in the back of your mind as well. This is not get rich quick. This is build your wealth over time, become a better investor, become a better citizen by becoming more informed. It doesn't mean you have to agree with everything that I say. I don't expect you to. I like the debate. So if you subscribe to my YouTube channel, you join my Facebook page and the various other social media outlets, challenge me. I want it. That's what this program's about. So bring it on. Part 3, Know the Players. Here we talk about various industries: oil, banks, media, defense, and we also talk about lobbying, how that all comes together and sort of shows how we have that corporatism system going on in this country, where there's very little sunlight between big business and government. It may look like it from time to time. Congress may march some high-level CEOs up to the Capitol building to give them a scolding, a lecture, a public lecture, and then at the end of the day, they're shaking hands. Somebody's giving them big money, and round we go, right? So no surprise there. But we do want to focus on the industries, because if you're knowledgeable of those industries and you know the trends that are coming or playing out, then you can get ahead of the curve, make some good investment moves in various aspects, stocks, options, however you want to play it. But many things to keep in mind, and we do a rather good job, if I do say so myself, in covering these various industries, and then how you can capitalize as a result of it. And then part 4, we tie it all together in investment strategies. we have the investing pyramid, which we'll get to, compounding interest, which is so crucial, and that's one of my favorite chapters because it's just amazing how compounding interest works, how you can allow time to work in your favor. And if you know anything about compounding interest, uh, if you're not fascinated by it, I'd like to know why, because it's just amazing when you can see that sort of hockey stick shaped graph of how things over time can just take off after a certain point. And we really want to stress that to you because I think that's a great selling point for the book. Is that compounding interest, because if a lot of people, once they see that, they're like, wow, is that true? And it is, because it's math and it's time, and it works out. You just have to be patient, and we show you in the book how to be patient, why to be patient, and if you can buy into our model or even some variation thereof, you're going to prove to be successful over time. You just have to be patient. And we have strategies for all levels, and that's what the investing pyramid's about: beginner level, intermediate, how everything ties together. So it's a one-stop shop. Again, it is a study. You will have to reread a few things over and over again, but that's okay, and hopefully you enjoy it. But the book takes everything into consideration, and throughout our educational careers, and throughout just our personal lives with personal reading as a hobby, both Brad and I have read quite a few economics books, investing books, finance books, and the like, and we put together a book that neither one of us have ever come across. Typically, in the many economics books that I've personally read, an economist identifies an issue, goes through the history of why it's an issue, how it became an issue, how it started, where it is today, where it's likely to go in the future. He may offer some sort of policy prescription to make it better, and then that's the end of the book. And that's fine and dandy, and many good books out there on economics, no doubt. And same goes true for finance and investing. Many books, many different books, and you have value investing, and they'll show you the various different metrics that you want to go through to become a successful value investor. Or maybe you want to be a day trader, and there's many books out there on how to read charts and be a technical analyst. And that's fine as well, but typically when you look at those books, they only show you certain stocks, bonds, whatever they may be talking about, and then they'll compare them to a certain system that they're trying to sell. Here's what the S&P 500 did over this 20-year period, and if you used our system, here's what would have happened, and down the line you go. But they don't ever really bring in the economy, how the economy works, how government policy affects those decisions. The S&P 500 isn't at that level just because it's there for many different reasons. So I think it's important for the reader and for the investor to have that understanding. Same goes true for the many economists who write books. They write books, again, highlighting those problems, but they don't tell you how you can capitalize on those opportunities by investing in the various markets: stocks, bonds, commodities, currencies, whatever it may be. So the Cynic's Guide to Investing really brings all of that together for you, so you have a better understanding, because what Brad and I truly believe is if you have a strong base, a strong root in understanding how the economy works, then you're going to be more confident when you finally decide to invest. And that confidence is so crucial, because so many people, portfolio goes down a little bit, they panic, and they get out. And that's the worst thing you can do, because if you're going to try to time the market, it's really a fool's errand, and you're better off not getting in the markets at all, which is not what I want to happen. I want you in the markets because the markets are here to serve you. Cut through the noise. That's what this program's about. There are so many experts, quote unquote experts, on TV, so much noise. Everybody's trying to sell you something. I'm trying to sell you a book, but do your own research. Think for yourself. Come out and just take a deep breath and think about the various things that are going on, how everything's interconnected. Don't allow the experts on TV do your thinking for you. Allow them to be a part of the discussion, Allow them to be a part of maybe the calculus that goes through your mind, because it's good to know what is going on, but you also have to be aware too that there's so much that isn't said, isn't reported on. And that's even true of the Cynic's Guide to Investing. The book is over 300 pages. It easily could have been double that. So there's so much information that isn't in the book that could have been. So always do your own research. Always challenge me. Always challenge yourself. Always challenge anybody you hear. And always remember that there's more than two sides. It's not just Republican and Democrat. There can be an infinite amount of choices. So don't settle for two, and don't allow that to be the argument. Um, Again, be yourself. And I hope you've enjoyed this program so far. And I'm going to wrap it up, and we'll see you next time. Thank you for listening.